Welcome to our first presentation for the new year for our pre-dental society for the Army and Pre-Health Society. My name is Osnev, and along with Pauline, who's our co-director, we are the pre-dental reps for the Army and Pre-Health Society, and we would like to welcome you all. We see a lot of new faces today, and we would like to welcome our guest speaker, Polished Tooth OC. So a little bit about me. I'm a non-traditional graduate student who recently graduated, and I applied this cycle to dental schools, and I'm waiting to hear back. And I'll let Pauline introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Pauline. I'm currently in my gap year. I graduated last year, and I'm also in the current application cycle, and I'll be attending UCLA this coming year.
Congrats again to Pauline. And to introduce Polished Tooth OC, she was actually my pre-dental club's president, and now she is the president of her class at Ostro, and she has done so much for students like myself, and she also has helped me with finding my internships and has done so much for my peers as well. So she's a great resource, and we're lucky to have her here today to share her journey and her application cycle Q&As you guys might have. Welcome.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. It's so good to see Osnev again. It's been a long time, it feels. And congrats to Poland. That's amazing. UCLA is so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
That's a huge accomplishment. So congrats. I hate UCLA. I'm a Trojan through and through, but Osnev, if you go to UCLA, I'm gonna have a problem, but
I'm waitlisted.
But anyway, so let me share my screen with you guys. Then I can introduce myself. Okay. Cool. I assume you can see my screen. So honestly, guys, just unmute yourselves if you guys have any questions. You can write it in the chat if it's better for you, whatever. I go kind of fast so I can stay on time. But just feel free to interrupt me and type out any questions that you have. And as we go through the presentation, it's easier for me if I answer the questions along the way. Just with pregnancy brain, it's hard for me to jump around. Okay, so yeah, my name's Dina, and like Osnev said, I'm a D2. I'm a second year, about to enter my third year, a few months away from that. And I go to school at USC. So I went to USC as an undergrad for 5 years. So I took a gap year. Well, I guess it would be a fifth year, not a gap year. I took a fifth year of school. I'll get into that. But went to USC, huge Trojan fan, love football, and then continued my journey at USC Ostro. So a few fun facts about me. I stress adopted 2 kittens during the application cycle. I swear after dental school, I'm going to have like 12 kittens. Actually, one's on my lap right now in case you want to see. Her name's Tigger. I did a belly flop on Jimmy Kimmel a few years ago. I was a contestant on Bachelor Live on Stage. I'm a really big football fan. I started a pre-dental blog during quarantine to kind of just help students. I know I had a lot of questions when I was applying and just throughout the whole process. So I wanted to be a resource for others. This is kind of outdated, but I'm married now. And like Osnev said, I'm the current class president for the class of 2024. I like including just some about me pictures. I don't know. I think they're kind of funny. So this was our wedding. We had our wedding back in November in Huntington Beach. And I really like our signature cocktails. It's like my favorite part of the slide, but my signature drink was the gingiva and tonic. And my husband's an attorney, so we named it Sapina Colada. I don't know, that was kind of funny. But that, yeah, some pictures from our wedding. And then, yeah, we just found out 2 months ago that I'm pregnant. So, yeah, navigating pregnancy in dental school. We'll see how that goes. So far, it's been a lot of naps. Sorry, my cat's eating my skeleton head. It's been a lot of naps. 2-3 hour naps. I wake up and it's already like 6 o'clock. Nausea has been okay. I've been lucky. But our class, we have 3 students who are pregnant. So I like talking about it because it's something that, yeah, a lot of women don't think about. And or think it's not possible. So I like kind of talking about that. Anyway, so my first 4 weeks of dental school, basically when you get accepted and you start, your first month, given this is different at every school, but your first month at USC specifically will be you already starting to drill. So they put a handpiece in your hand and they show you how to drill the third day of orientation. So I think UCLA is maybe a little later from what at least my friends have told me in previous classes. I could be wrong. Maybe they've changed things. But one thing about USC is that they start you in the clinic like right away. Well, not in the clinic, sorry, in the sim lab. They start you in the sim lab right away. So you're already putting on rubber dams. You're already, drilling into little plastic teeth, and you're drilling into little plastic blocks and all that, which is super cool because you get the exposure pretty early on. I know I have a friend at Columbia who just started using his handpiece like 7 months into the first year of dental school, which I mean, honestly, I don't know how much of a difference it makes because what's 6-7 months in the grand scheme of things, but that's just something that's different about USC. I struggled a lot with ovarian cysts. I needed surgery my second week of dental school, then got pneumonia from aspirating during surgery. It was just a whole ordeal. It was a little crazy for me that first month, but basically your first year, you're going to be taking, again, I'm generalizing, but you should be taking morphology, which is the anatomy of the tooth. So if you see down here, this lower left picture, how each tooth basically, oh, sorry, can you guys see my screen? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So basically you analyze every single little aspect of the tooth. Now you have like 15 weeks to memorize the pediatric teeth, the adult teeth. And again, every aspect, is it right or left? Is it the first molar, second molar, third molar? Is it maxillary mandibular? It's super dry material. And on top of that, you're taking karyology, which is the study of like the bacteria that causes cavities. So your first year is pretty boring. Honestly, it kind of sucks because you build it up in your head like, oh, dental school, yay, I'm so excited. And then you go and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is really boring. So that was something a lot of us struggled with our first year. I remember on Easter Day making the decision of, okay, am I going to stay with dentistry? Am I not? Because I was so discouraged that I didn't like the career. Posted it on my polished tooth page, like, oh, okay, I'm thinking of quitting. Anyway, so don't be discouraged your first year if you're like, this is really boring. It's really dry. It's really dense. And then you can see, like I said, you'll get these little plastic teeth that you can drill in. And so that was kind of our first 4 weeks, first month. This was for our morphology class. So again, you're literally memorizing every aspect of the tooth. And I think, okay, this was for our karyology class. This was for our operative class. This was our second trimester. Basically, you have this hole in the tooth and then you have to fill it. It's pretty bad. I thought it was good at the time, but and then you have some wax manipulations where you wax up teeth. So on this little articulator, you like wax up the models. This was a class 5 restoration. So you have this like cavity and then you drill it out and you fill it. That was a little better. This is a class 3 restoration. This was for our operative class. So I kind of like going into what exactly dental school is, because I don't feel like you really know what it's like until you get there. I did a ton of shadowing. Both my parents are dentists, which is why I kind of wanted to go into dentistry. My parents were like, it's a great career. I was used to seeing my parents come home and talk about teeth, and it was very comfortable for me. And then I did a ton of shadowing. I shadowed oral surgeons, orthodontists, general dentists, peds. I had so many shadow hours. I think one regret that I have, a lot of people will ask me on Instagram, what do you wish you had known when you were in undergrad? And so for me, that was really, now remind me, sorry guys, is this a pre-dental or pre-health club?
The attendees today are pre-dental.
Pre-dental, okay, cool. So And the reason I ask that is because my biggest struggle in dental school has been that in dental school, I've really enjoyed the medical side of things. I've really enjoyed, you get exams, at least at USC, where you get patient facts and you stay up all night and you come up with the diagnosis and you come up with, because you have science classes too, right? In dental school, you have anatomy, physiology, all those classes. So you have to come up with the diagnosis. And I found that I really like the medical side of dentistry and not so much the dental side of dentistry, which isn't great considering I'm almost in my third year of dental school, right? So I've had the thought of, okay, should I apply to medical school? I honestly just had that thought last weekend, where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to satisfy me. So ultimately, no, I'm going to stay in dentistry and, find a specialty that I really like. But my advice to you guys is like, just make sure, that you kind of look around at a lot of different health fields just to make sure that this is what you want to do, because you're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of money. And I would say most of my classmates are really happy. I'd say 90% are really happy they're in dentistry and 10% wish they'd gone to medicine. So just, keep that in mind. Just shadow at hospitals. Just, I didn't do that. I only shadowed dentistry. I didn't shadow anything else. So that's my biggest kind of regret. Okay, so I was born to a family dentist. Like I said, I wanted to make sure the profession was right for me. I don't feel like I really did, but it is what it is, and I'm gonna learn to I'm gonna learn to like it. And again, a lot of us have this kind of, we're in the sim lab, we're not seeing patients yet. So I also think maybe that's part of the reason that we're like a little, we're not kind of interacting with other people. We're just sitting there with our type it on, our little fake mannequin. And, maybe that's why we're not super hyped yet. But anyway, so why I chose USC. So I really like the community aspect, just how, and I think most of you probably go to USC, so you're probably familiar. But so love the, family kind of feel, like I said, the early clinical preparation, the campus life. I'm sure you guys know there's always something to do on campus. I love having the undergrads and the other like graduate students around me. I feel not so lonely on campus. And obviously Southern California is the best. And we have a really good quarterback who's coming next year. So if that's not incentive to go to SC, I don't know what is. We're going to have a good football team. Okay, so I really like this slide because when I was applying, I really had kind of a mental block where I kept comparing myself to other, classmates and pre-dental friends. And I'd always look at what everyone else was doing, what other people's scores were. And I was like, oh, my stuff's not good enough, right? So I wasn't this crazy, extraordinary applicant. And I feel like a lot of times people make it seem like, oh, I have a 4.0. I'm like, how do you have a 4.0? That's crazy, right? And I got into USC. You don't need a 4.0, right? So my GPA was 3.53 science. My academic DAT was a 20. My PAT was a 23. The USC average for my class, this is actually wrong. This was for the class above me. Our USC class average was a 3.67 and I had a 3.53. Our DAT was a 20 and our PAT average was a 20. So again, I was significantly below when it came to science GPA. Given I was a human bio major, I was taking a lot of science classes. Okay, but still, it was significantly lower. I just had a ton of leadership and community service, shadow hours, all that kind of stuff that I think made me stand out. So if you are kind of like me in the sense that maybe your GPA is a little lower than what your dream schools want, then just try to supplement your application with something else. Okay, and then these were the schools that I applied to. So I decided to only apply to, I think I actually applied to 5 schools. I think I applied to UOP too. But I never really considered UOP because I never really wanted to go there. But anyway, so I applied to, I think, 5 schools, just the California schools. And basically, a lot of people ask, well, how many schools should I apply to? I applied to 4. My other co-president at the time for our club applied to like 12. So it varies. I would say if financial, isn't an issue for you, I I'd say like 12 schools is like a good number, 8 to 12. I say that because I had a lot of friends who applied to like 12 schools and got interviews from maybe 1 or 2 places, and they got accepted maybe at one place. So it's super random. I think I got lucky. And yeah, applying to 4 or 5 schools is risky. But for me, I knew that had I gotten accepted anywhere else, I wasn't going to go. I was going to reapply again. So I didn't want to waste the time of going to interviews and going through all that. Even UOP was a stretch because I knew I wasn't going to go there. I honestly shouldn't have applied there. But so yeah, basically I would just apply to the places you know you would go to if that was the only school you got accepted to. And if it's not, then I wouldn't bother applying. So what I mean by that is like, don't feel pressure to apply to a bunch of places because your friends are, but if you're willing to travel and to move, then, you know, I'd apply to more. So I applied to Loma Linda, UCLA, USC, and Western, and then UOP as well. Loma Linda, I got my interview, I think in October. I got accepted the first day in December. UCLA got rejected in like August. Probably because they saw this picture of me on Instagram. No, probably because my grades were nowhere near where they wanted. USC, I got my interview also in October, got accepted first day in December. And then Western, I got my interview, I think in November, and I got waitlisted in December. So, and then I took out my application for Western and UOP. So ultimately, I like talking about the interviews here because I think the interviews are like, honestly, one of the most important things of the application cycle. The toughest thing, in my opinion, is getting the interview. It's really tough because you have a ton of applicants. And so the fact that the school kind of wants to bring you in and see you means that you have a certain something that they like. So I think preparing for the interview is super important because like it's right there, you know, once they give you that interview, it's like you're so close, like you're right there, you know, on the brink of being accepted. So Loma Linda, so the key is with the interviews is to really make sure that you're researching how the interviews work at every school, because every school is very different. And the last thing you want is to go to a school, think you're going into a different sort of formatted interview, or you think you're going into a certain interview style and it's completely different from what you thought and you're not prepared. So Loma Linda is, you know, for those of you who are thinking of California schools, I can kind of help you out. Loma Linda, their interview is very personal. So it's like a one-on-one, usually I think it's 30 minutes interview. Mine was like an hour and 30 minutes. And we talked, it felt like therapy. I mean, we were just talking about my life and my mother-in-law and how we don't get, like, it was just a whole, like, it was great. I felt so good afterwards. I was like, oh, okay, he knows me in and out. Western was very opposite of that. It wasn't personal at all. It was 60 students and you have like 5-10 minutes of interview, and it's a one-on-one interview, but they ask super broad and general questions, whereas like Loma Linda was more like specific. And I left the Western interview and was like, okay, they don't really know who I am because they spoke to me for like 5 minutes. USC was pretty brutal. I think it was the most intense out of all of the other ones. There's 2 formats of interview that USC does, the PBL and the MMI. In short, you can read about this more on my website, so I'll just very briefly go through it. The MMI is basically where they give you ethical situations, and you basically have to formulate a response to how you would handle that situation. And they give you, I think, 6 or 7 scenarios, and you rotate to different faculty members. And then you have the PBL portion where you're put in a group of like 7 or 8 other people, and you have to come up with, you know, you read like a passage and you come up with answers and blah, blah, blah. You're working in a group setting. That's the biggest thing. So I have tips for both of them, how to succeed in both of them on my website. So I'm not going to go into that, but just know that each dental school is very different. Okay. So, okay. Again, if you guys have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, so uh, that's true. I'm always on the big screen of the game. Sorry, just saw that. Okay, so I swear I've said like, sorry, just side note that we're getting this new quarterback, right? And we're gonna have a really good team next year. I just know it. I can feel it. And I'm due in September, which is football season. And I was like, all right, baby's coming with earmuffs, and that's how it's gonna be. I'm not missing the season for this. But anyway, maybe I'm not ready to have a child. Okay, so studying for the DAT. Programs I suggest, I really like the DAT bootcamp. So you guys are probably all familiar with that. I use the bootcamp and I swear by it. I think 97% of pre-dents use it. In my opinion, sorry if there's any Kaplan reps in here. I wouldn't really waste your time on Kaplan. I had a lot of friends who used Kaplan, took the DAT, restudied, and then used the boot camp and then did better. So I would just start off with the boot camp, save your time, save your studying. So what the DAT bootcamp does is they give you a 60-day study schedule, which is amazing. So instead of just giving you a bunch of study material and being like, okay, have fun, go, they actually break it down for you. So it kind of keeps you organized and it makes it not so intimidating. They also give you like review material on bio, on Gen Chem, on OChem. They give you study guides, review stuff. And what I did is I printed them out because I didn't want to just look at my computer screen all day. I printed them out and it's a lot of pages. I took it to FedEx, but it was good for me. Another thing that's really helpful is the DAT Destroyer books. So those are incorporated in the DAT bootcamp schedule. You have to buy the books separately. Sorry. You have to buy the book separately. Sorry. Oh my gosh. But the bootcamp incorporates those books in the schedule. Sorry, guys. And then if you want like extra PAT problems, you can use the PAT booster. But the bootcamp does have like PAT generators where I felt like those were enough. I didn't need any sort of supplemental practice, but if you wanted extra practice, you could use the PAT booster. For those of you who don't know what the PAT is, it's basically a perceptual ability test, and it's a segment of the DAT where you basically have to like, there's a bunch of different sections, but you kind of have to use your eyes and brain and rank angles, and it's not scientific. It's more so like how your ability to perceive things is. So my study schedule, I started studying one summer before I applied. I wanted to give myself to retake it if I needed to. And then I took 2 to 3 months to study for it. The biggest question that I personally had was, should I retake the DAT? This is tough. So I know with like the MCAT, your score doesn't erase, right? So if you take it one time, and you take it the second time and the third time, the schools will see each one of your scores. With dental school, some schools are like that and some schools aren't. Every school is different. So before you take retake the DAT, check with each school. I almost retook mine because if you remember, my score was a 20 and USC's average was a 20. So I was like, oh, my GPA is like lower than average. Maybe I should try and take it again so my DT can be a little bit above average to balance it out. When I talked to admissions that year, they told me, yeah, like do what you want, but just know that if you retake it and you get, let's say, a 16 because you woke up and, weren't feeling well, we're going to take the most recent score and we're not going to see your first score. So that kind of scared me. I kind of was like, okay, I'm just going to keep the 20. So just keep that in mind. Some schools will take your most recent, some schools will take your higher one, but just check before you retake it. Oh, and then one more thing for this. For those who are planning on studying for the DAT, I do have a code that will give you $50 off. So I'll type it in here. That's the code. So in case I was approached by a good amount of different DAT study programs, and I refused to, promote any of them because I didn't use them and I didn't fully believe in them, and I only promote things I fully believe in. So I approached Bootcamp and I asked them if they would be willing to have me as an ambassador. So I'm one of their ambassadors, but that's because I truly believe in their program. So, okay, so research. Big question is, Do I have to do research? Is it mandatory? Do schools like to see it? So yeah, it depends on the school. The UC schools really like to see the research. They're more research based. When I had asked USC, they had told me, again, my year when I applied, things change all the time, but they had told me we don't require it, but it kind of makes you look better, it strengthens your application. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do research. So I emailed, like, I'm not lying when I say probably 75 different labs, at least. I got like 3 responses back. 2 were like, one was like, yeah, we don't take undergrads. Okay. One was like, yeah, I don't do research anymore. And the other one was like, okay, we'll take you. So email as many as you can. You can just go on USC's like research page, find faculty, whatever. Most of the time, it doesn't have to be in the dental field. And in your email, you can attach your CV resume and you can personalize. You should personalize the letter when you email the different faculty. I did mine on like diabetes. Another friend did hers on like fruit flies. Another friend did hers on like fish. So you don't really have to, again, depending on the school. When I talked to UCLA, they said we like to see you doing research like over a long period of time. Whereas like USC was like, just do research. Like, so again, every school is different. Just check with the schools. This is also on my Instagram, but feel free to screenshot it. This was the template that I used to send emails to different researchers. Basically in the first paragraph, I showed them that I researched their research. So, these professors get all the time emails from undergrad students who want to work in their labs. So just kind of standing out, to help you stand out, you might just want to, show them like, what they're doing. And then why should they pick you? Let's say, I did research in diabetes. Let's say you have a grandma who suffers from diabetes and this is near and dear to your heart, or, if you study osteoporosis, same thing, right? So just explain why, you'd want to work there. And then your closing paragraph, and then attach your resume or your CV. Okay, so classes that I took, I'm not going to go through all this, but I kind of just wanted to lay out what I took. Remember, I was a human bio major, so took a ton of science classes. I decided to take a 5th year because I transferred from University of Oregon, so things didn't transfer, that whole thing. And then also just because I was taking a ton of science classes that I really wanted to space it out. I didn't want to take 4 science classes at the same time. What I did was I used that 5th year to take the recommended courses that are listed on the dental school's websites. So a lot of those courses are like anatomy, physiology, immunology, microbiome, biochem, and histology. So I took, I think, 3 of those 6 in my time at USC. Even if you can take it pass, no pass, that's okay. 2 reasons why I think this is good. 1, because it shows the dental schools, okay, the student has taken these classes, and I know that in dental school, they can handle these courses. Number 1, because these courses you will be taking in dental school. So if you already have a background in it, chances are you're going to do well in dental school, right? At least in the sciences. And then second reason is because like I said, when you're in dental school, you're going to be taking in 1 trimester, again, with morphology, where you're learning the teeth, right? With karyology, with labs on top of it for both classes. You're taking anatomy, physiology, immunology, pharmacology, and histology all together. So it's a lot, right? And especially if you're at USC doing PBL, where you're kind of teaching yourself, which, by the way, I love PBL. A lot of people don't. I really like it. But side note, you're taking all these science classes together, again, on top of those other classes. It becomes a lot. And you only have 15 weeks, right? So my biggest thing is like, if you can take these before it's just a huge review of everything that you've already done. I have friends who, maybe weren't a bio major and they're, studying this for the first or second time, and it's a little more difficult for them and they're struggling. And honestly, for me, I'm chilling. Like every case we've had so far, I mean, in PBL, which is considered to be like the hardest stuff, I get like 97s in PBL. Like, okay, my dental classes are a lot worse. So the PBL class GPA brings my other grades up, but I'm telling you, not because I'm smarter than my classmates. I came in with a lower GPA than the rest of my classmates, but it's because I took these classes before and now I'm studying it. And I'm like, this is easier than the classes I took. I mean, I took muscle physiology, for example. Now, when we're learning about the muscles, I'm like, this is so surface level compared to what I did in undergrad. So if that's one advice I could give you for, your undergrad time, is to really take those classes. Don't worry about the GPA. You can take them pass, no pass, but like all the stuff you're going to be doing at one time in dental school. So that's my spiel. Extracurriculars and volunteering. So these are just some examples of what you can do. So pre-dental societies, leadership roles, tutoring positions, sports, joining any club on campus. Just stick with it and show consistency. So whatever club you're a part of, just try to be a part of it for a long period of time. Okay, and then this is what I did. So I worked on Skid Row, I did mobile clinics, I did a UTA, I was an anatomy SI leader, I did club tennis. For our pre-dental club, the Delta Delta Sigma club on campus, I was the community outreach director, president, volunteered at elementary schools, tutored kids in the local area, and then tutored the student athletes too. So that's why I took that 5th year. There was no way I could do research, all of this, take all those classes, and go to football games. Something was going to have to give, and it wasn't going to be football. So anyway, that is why I think I got accepted, given my GPAs, because I had kind of all these other things going on. I like this slide because I'm all about like Instagram versus reality. If you follow my page, I'm very utterly blunt and honest with everything in my life. So this is funny. This was our co-president, Maddie. She ended up going to UPenn dental school. And that was us at a dental clinic. And then that was me after. And my fiance's like, I hate that picture of me. My hair looks so bad. That was before he got a haircut. But anyway, yeah, I was exposed to someone who had lice. So I'm all about just like, whatever you see on Instagram, whatever your other pre-dental friends are posting, just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, so the application. This slide is money, in my opinion, because there are some little tips and tricks that you can kind of do to increase your chances of getting accepted. I use these tips. I feel they help me. I kind of gathered these from upperclassmen at the time who were at dental school, and I got their advice. Now I'm passing that along to other people. I pass this along to my followers on Polished Tooth, and they had like pretty good results with it. So this is money. So the first thing to know is that the admissions process is a rolling admissions. So meaning you're able to fill out your application starting in May. So in May, the application opens, you can make an account, or you can make an account before, but you can open up your application and you can start filling in. My name is Dina. I live here. I go to school here, right? This is where I volunteered. These are my transcripts, blah, blah. You can start, this is my personal statement. You can start filling everything out. June, and again, every year the date changes, but June, you can click the submit button. So there's one day in June where the application you're allowed to send off the application. Okay, this was the 8 a.m., the first day of the application. I sent that baby in. The trick is to apply as early as you can. So people will get misled because the schools will say, our deadline is December. Our deadline for the application is April. Our deadline is February. Okay, great. That's their deadline for when they take and look at your apps, right? The problem is interviews start getting sent out in August. Okay, so And then December, the first Monday in December is when the first round of acceptances can be sent out. So the problem is if you think to yourself, okay, the deadline is in April, let's say for USC, I think it's like February, March, or April. But then by December, UCLA fills up, I think like 95% of their class. USC fills up like 45% of their class. Western fills up like 80% of their class. Okay, well, now you're fighting for limited spots, right? So if you send your application in February, you're fighting for that 15% of seats, in the class. So it makes it a lot trickier for you to get accepted. Not that it's, you're not going to get accepted, but it makes it tougher on you. So just try to submit the application as early as you can. June, July, those are all fine. I applied, like I said, first day in June. My co-president applied, I think middle of July, and we got our interview date at USC together. So did that, month really matter? Probably not, but just get it in as soon as you can. Update your application periodically. So what students will usually do is just update the application on the online portal. So let's say you submit your application in June, and by September, you've done like 300 shadow hours because that summer you decided to shadow a ton. Okay. How are you going to tell them? Okay, well, you're going to upload it in the application, right? Oh, application added 300 hours, submit. Okay, well, usually the schools don't really check that, or I wouldn't rely on the schools to check that. Think about how many applicants they have. Probably don't notice, okay, in my opinion. So what I did is I emailed all the schools. So I updated my application in September. I updated it so anything. I said, oh, I'm president of my pre-dental club now. Oh, I did 300 shadow hours by September. Okay. I would update it again, maybe in November, December or so. If you haven't gotten an interview yet, I would update. And so what this does is kind of just brings your name to the top, right? Then they're like, oh, who's this person? It shows persistence. It shows that you want to go there. It shows, in my opinion. So that's what I did. I feel like that really helped me. So yeah, that's my advice on that. I think that's key. Try to take the DAT before you apply. Most schools won't look at your application until they have your DAT score in. So if you plan on retaking the DAT in September, just know that most schools won't look at your application until they get the scores in their hands. Letters of rec, look really closely at the requirements. Every school has different requirements. I almost really messed up my application, which is why I put that in here, because for a lot of schools, if you don't fulfill their letter of rec requirements, they'll throw your application out on the spot. So be really careful. Where I got into a little bit of trouble, and thank goodness I realized it 2 days before I submitted my application, my research PI guy, the guy who hired me to be a part of his research team, he teaches muscle physiology at the school and physiology, human physiology. And so the requirement was you need to have a science professor give you a letter of rec. Well, he wasn't my science professor because he was on sabbatical that year. So I never had him as a professor. I only had him as a research PI. So he didn't fulfill that category, even though he is a science professor. So I had to run to my community college, beg my chemistry professor to write me a letter, and got it in. So just be careful with that because it can get a little tricky. Prereqs don't need to be completed by the time that you apply. So if you still have to take physics because you're putting that off to the last trimester, I don't blame you. That's something that in your application, you'll indicate I'm planning on taking these classes my last year. They will accept you on the condition that you'll finish those classes. So you have to finish the classes, but you don't have to have them by the time that you apply. One other thing is always check the prereqs for each school, not just letters of rec, but the classes that you're taking. UCLA, when I applied, I don't know if it's different now, but they required psych. And they require psych, right, Poland? Yeah. That's something I decided to, I scheduled my psych class my senior year, like my fourth year because I was like, okay, if I get an interview at UCLA, then I'll take the psych class. But if I don't get an interview, then I'm not going to take the psych class, right? I know Loma Linda requires like a religion class. So every school kind of has, and every school changes every year. So just because one year UOP didn't need anatomy, that doesn't mean the next year they're not going to require it. So just be sure, because if you don't take those classes and you get accepted, they will take away your acceptance. And you can't take those over summer. They won't let you. So you have to take them before you graduate. So just know that. And then, yep, very stressful waiting game. That's why I got 2 cats. Really helped. And then shadowing, email as many dentists as you can in your area. Always arrive a few minutes early and be mindful of their time. I fainted. I know a lot of my friends did too, especially in the oral surgery rotations. And then foster relationships so that you can eventually ask them for a letter of rec. Most dental schools want 1 or 2 dentists to write you a letter of rec. So it's good to, maybe if you want to go to, USC, go to a USC alum to shadow. If you want to go to UCLA, try to go to UCLA alum. Just, yeah, if you can, but that's what I tried to do. Questions to ask when you're shadowing. So these are just some examples. Why did you choose dentistry? How do you balance work and family life? Why did you decide to stay general or specialize? What would be your biggest piece of advice? And what should I look for when researching dental schools? And also maybe like, how do you take pictures of your teeth? Like I know Dr. Yermian takes like the most beautiful pictures. And I swear I want to shadow him just to see how he takes those pictures.
You're always invited.
I'm telling you, I'm going to come by soon. But the thing is you're going to learn a lot about like the dental materials when you're in dental school. Like you're going to learn every material. So when you're actually shadowing, like try and ask questions that you're not going to learn in dental school. No one in dental school teaches you how to run a business. No one teaches you whether or not you should specialize. No one teaches you how to be a mom, right? No one teaches you that kind of stuff. So try and ask the questions that, you're not going to get in dental school.
Just to add on to your slide, what we were talking about this earlier, once you get into dental school, shadowing does not stop. A lot of dental students still go in and shadow and do externships, so then they could get residencies and other things.
Yeah. And what's funny too, is to add on to that, I thought when I was shadowing in undergrad, I was like, okay, good. I'm getting the hours I need to apply, which was a terrible mindset. I shouldn't have, thought that way, but I did. And now I'm like, oh, I really like ortho. I'm genuinely really curious to like go and shadow. It's like your mindset kind of shifts from like, I need this to ... to more of, I'm genuinely curious about, so I totally agree with what Asner said. Thank you for chiming in. And then, okay, cool. And then this was the kind of letter that I wrote the general or whatever, the dentist and orthodontist, whenever I asked to shadow. Again, feel free to screenshot it. It's on my Instagram as well. Introduce yourself, what qualifies you. Okay, if you shadowed before, whatever. Indicate any tests or lab results, lab work, training courses you've completed. So probably Dr. Yermin, Asneev had you do HIPAA training, maybe Hep B testing. I don't know. Usually that's what I had to do to shadow. So TB skin test. So if you've had those done, maybe just mention it.
I recall when you spoke to our pre-dental club, you told us to send all of that in an email and you shared your template. So I used your template and I changed it around to my background and I attached what I had for my work because I already had HIPAA and everything. So they didn't have to ask me. So I think that kind of helps you go forward in the applicant pool too.
Yeah, because then they know that, okay, we don't have to ask her for all this stuff. We don't need to take the time to go through all this. We can just bring her right on. So it probably just helps. And then just like your availability and your closing. So that's cool. You use the template. I'm glad that helped. Okay, and we're almost done. So I wanted to quickly show you guys. This is one of my favorite. Let me show you guys really quickly. This is one of my favorite posts on my account, and that's because like I said, the interview, in my opinion, is the most important part of the whole process. Okay, let me just share my screen. 1 second. Sorry. Okay, so I know as Neve put in my, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, I know she put the website in the chat, which I appreciate. Thank you. So basically, if you go here, you can kind of see different categories. Probably pre-dental advice is what you're going to want. And here you can see like things to know before your MMI interview. So if you're going to interview at USC, this is super key to know. I put the books that I used to study. I give like an example kind of PBI MMI scenario. But the one that's really helpful, I go through like, here's a template again for shadowing, how to prepare for your interview. So this is my favorite one here. And I go through the steps, and I'm telling you, like, this is golden. Just if you use this, like, you should be okay. So like research the dental school, prepare the standard interview questions, review your submitted application, prepare the questions that you will ask your interviewer. That's a super huge one. Like any questions for us, you're like, oh man, like what questions do I have? These are really good. The most likable, like every time I asked this question, what made you choose to come and work at this dental school? They love that one. So mental note. And then read books to kind of help you interview well. This MMI, if you guys get an interview to USC, this book is money. Really, really, really good. A lot of people went into the interviews, especially the MMI, and hadn't prepared, and they came out of it and they were like, oh my gosh. And I prepared like extensively. It's just the way I am. And it really helped. Like it really, really helped. So I have like a ton of resources on here. And then I kind of talk about too, like my pregnancy and everything too, and my life as a dental student. Also, this might be helpful for you, Poland, but how I organize my dental school instruments, I linked all the different organizers that I used, especially because we do a lot of lab work from home. I'm carrying my instruments back and forth. So I kind of put like all these, like which containers I use from Container Store, and then I linked everything so you guys can, yeah, and I don't get any money from that or anything. It just would have helped me if I was a first year and, you know, just to kind of organize my life. But anyway, okay, so I'll leave you guys on this last slide here. I really like this quote. It's not all peaches and roses. When someone tells you it can't be done, it's more a reflection of their limitations and not yours. The biggest two things I want to mention here. Number one, getting a C is not the end of the world. I got a C in OChem. I thought I wasn't going to pass the class. I stayed up every single night, waking up in tears because I'm like, I'm going to fail. Okay. Got a C, I passed, and I was so happy about that. I thought it was going to completely ruin my chances. And okay, honestly, everyone gets a C. No one will tell you, but someone has gotten a W, someone's gotten a C, someone's dropped without a W, with a W. Like, honestly, it's people don't talk about it, but people do. So don't think it's the end of the world if you don't do well in a class. It's very common. People just don't talk about it. The second thing I wanted to say is, oh, and by the way, you're never going to take a class in dental school that's as hard as OChem, ever. I promise. OChem, it's like downhill battle. After you take OChem, it's like everything else is just piece of cake. And the second thing I wanted to say is that one thing that a lot of us dental students really struggled with was comparing ourselves to other people. So as a pre-dent, it's easy to do that too. I told you that I struggled with that when I was a pre-dental student. But in dental school, it's kind of different because like when you're a pre-dent, people don't really go around and tell you, oh, I got an A in OChem. Okay, which actually, funny story, when I was in OChem, like half the class would say, I got an A. And then they show the statistics and like 5 people got an A. I'm like, 45 of you guys are lying. But anyway, but no, so as a pre-dent, people don't, flaunt around, really, most people don't flaunt around. I got an A, look at my, staple my grade to my forehead. People don't do that. In dental school, it's a little more normalized because your grade depends on your lab work and your academic scores too, but a lot of your grades, your lab work. And so you have someone, like Joey Dentistry, if you guys follow him. If you don't, he's amazing. You should. He's one of my best friends. But he does the most beautiful work. And from day one, like this kid was just born with magical hands. I don't know how he did it. Like I tell you, really does not practice any much more than any of us. He's just really naturally talented. And, you know, he posts his work and you're just like, okay, my stuff looks really bad. So you're constantly seeing on Instagram, look at my work, look at my work. And people are only posting the work that looks good. No one's going to post their really bad looking prep. Everyone's going to post their good stuff. So you're working 7 hours on something that looks really bad and that professors are like, what is this? Right. And then you go on Instagram after a long day and you're like, I shouldn't be a dentist, right? Like my work's just so bad compared to everyone else's. It's a real thing. And it's something that not just me, but a lot of people feel. So try, you know, starting now to mentally get into the mindset. It's really difficult and I'm still not there yet, but to get in the mindset of like, okay, I'm not going to compare myself. I'm doing the best I can. I'm in a different place. For a while, I muted Joey. I'm like, Joey, I can't see your stuff. I'm just muting you during wax ups and more. I'm like, I can't see it. So that's just kind of, that's what's different about undergrad. As far as the course load in undergrad versus dental school, like I said, nothing's going to be more difficult. No class is more difficult than physics and OChem. Those classes are tough. But the course work and the course load is just a lot more. So you have more things to do because again, you have all the labs, they're time consuming, right? You have classes, but the actual material is not harder in my opinion. Again, I was a bio major, so I had a good background, but still, I don't think it's tougher. If you guys have any questions, again, that's my website, that's my Instagram. So feel free at any point to message me. I try to respond to everyone in a decent amount of time, but yeah, I've been posting some really funny pregnancy content lately. So, and then I just had one question. I just wanted to get to this. It's actually pretty funny. What was the name of those drinks you had at your wedding? We have a dentist and lawyer in the fam getting married. It was the gingiva and tonic and the sapina colada is what it was. Yeah.
I actually had a few questions sent to me if you have time.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
One question was regarding letter of intent. If you sent one, I know you did, if you want to elaborate. And another one is about like balancing being a student and being pregnant.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So, okay, the letter of intent, super life hack. Like letter of intents are really good. USC will tell you, we don't, or at least they told us, we don't accept letters of intent. Still send them. They're probably going to hate me for telling you this, but okay, send them. Basically, there's two ways of going about it. If you, let's say, got into UCLA and you're like, what's a Bruin? I don't want to go to UCLA. I hate UCLA. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Poland. I told you I'm a huge Trojan. But you're like, I really want to go to USC. I want to see USC crush the Bruins. Okay, not last year, but anyway. But you've gotten accepted to another school. You should write a letter to that dental school, to USC, for example, in this instance, and say, hey, look, I got into UCLA, but, I love JT Daniels or no, I'm kidding. But, I have my dad who went here. I shadowed a dentist who went here. I went to undergrad here. I volunteered at USC, whatever connection that you have at that particular school, whatever that school is, then write that. Now, if you haven't gotten accepted to a dental school, it makes your positioning a little weaker, right? So they may not be as inclined because if they know you got accepted to another school, they may be like, oh, okay, we want you, right? But if you haven't, okay, maybe it's not as effective, but it's still effective. I had people who send letters, not saying I got accepted to another school, but saying, look, I really want to go to the school because of XYZ. This is my top school, it's my number one school. Even though I didn't, don't say you didn't get accepted anywhere else, but even though you didn't get accepted somewhere else, you can still write that letter to just show your passion for that school and to show that you really want to go there. I had a few followers who did that and they actually did get accepted a few weeks later. So it's kind of life hack. I would definitely suggest doing that. And then as far as dental school while being pregnant, yeah, it's been, like I said, I got pregnant at the beginning, the first week of my second year, and the second year is considered to be toughest with regards to workload. You have 10 classes and 12 exams actually in 1 week. You have 2 exams a day. It's insane. Overnight exams and just, it's a lot. But the nausea for me has been okay. I was worried about that. And by the way, guys, I commute from Orange County to LA 4 days a week. So I'm also in the car like 3-4 hours a day. So that's also been really time consuming, but it's been totally fine. The nausea has been okay. The main thing has just been super tired. And like I said, I'm just taking a ton of naps. As long as I can take a nap or two a day, like I'm good. Today I had to leave class early because I felt super nauseous. So I'm at almost 9 weeks. We heard the heartbeat and everything. And at 12 weeks, things get better. You don't get tired, you don't get nauseous, and supposedly things get a lot better. So I'm waiting for a few more weeks, but so far it's just been managing the tiredness, but I thought it was going to be worse. But I had a friend actually in my class who had it really bad. She was throwing up like every night. So yeah, maybe I got lucky.
And does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free to raise your hand or write it in the chat, or you could send it to either me and Pauline to read.
I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for that wonderful presentation. It was really insightful. I am actually PDS president as well for my school. And so I graduate this spring with a bio major and a chem minor. And I plan on taking the DAT in August. But I also want to apply to this upcoming cycle. So does that put me at a disadvantage, submitting my application? Can I submit my application and then later on submit my DAT? I know they won't look at it, but I don't know if that makes any difference.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Where do you go to school actually? Sorry.
I go to Cal State San Marcos.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So no, I definitely try to get your application in this cycle. Like I said, they start sending out interviews in August, but I had a friend who sent in her DAT, and her DAT scores like weren't that great. And she sent them in September or November, and she got accepted. So I'm just generalizing when I say the later you apply, the more at a disadvantage you are, but August isn't that late. I'm talking about like if you're applying November, October, November, but August is still pretty early in the cycle. So I wouldn't waste the cycle and not applying. Just try to do your best and like study really hard for the DAT so you don't have to retake it. But I don't think August is too late at all. I definitely get that application in. And I would send in your application. That's what I do. I send in your application in June, July, August, whenever. And when you get your scores, let the schools know. Email the schools and tell them, hey, look, got my scores. These are my numbers. I attached it in ASDAS. So they know like, okay, just so you're not relying on the portal to notify them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good question. And then I also got a question here. Do you email the letter of intent or is it part of the application? That's something you'd email separately. That's not part of the application. So you'd email that to the admissions email for each school or for the school. And I would only send the letter of intent to one school. It's a small world and you don't want to say, this is my number one choice for like 10 schools. I'd try to send it to one school.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions, if you guys don't mind putting on your cameras for a quick group photo, if you feel comfortable, give you a few seconds. Okay, we have one person. Thank you. I know it's late and we're all tired. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And then one more, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And thank you so much for your presentation. And if you guys have any questions, I linked her blog and her Instagram is the same username and she's always helpful to everyone. Just reach out. Thank you so much for your help.
Thank you guys for having me. Good to see you again. And good luck pulling in UCLA.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You were so helpful.
Oh, you're welcome. Sorry for Sorry for going at it.
I'm
No.
not kidding when I say she's on the, what is it called, the Jumbotron every single game. They make sure to put it on her front row. I used to Instagram her from every game and be like, I see you.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been following your page for a while and I love it. Like I look forward to your Sunday posts to
Oh,
about
you're
the
so
babies.
LR wrote Queen of USC.
Yeah, that baby's gonna come out. You know it with a USC onesie.
Her hubby's also a Trojan.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, yeah, he's a Trojan too. Not like through and through. He's like a semi-Trojan. Oh, thank you guys again. Good luck with everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night, everyone.
Good
Have a
night.
good one, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
I'm gonna text her because I think she's at work to turn it off for recording a chikori.
Oh yeah.
If you want, you could go. I'm just gonna text her.
Okay, thank you for
Okay.
everything.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.